Hey guys, well, here goes another exclusive.
Well, here goes another video. I'm really tempted to say hey guys, but everybody does that and that's retarded.
Conformist. Yeah.
Okay, so I've put up a couple videos and I haven't done one in a few months because I'm lame.
Damn, man, that wasn't delivered like a joke. Don't be so hard on yourself.
The ideas that I want to talk about are very simple. I want to begin with one idea, and obviously if you watch the other two videos, you'll know what I think, and that is that God exists.
I haven't seen the other two videos, but I already pretty much assumed you thought that, considering the title of this one is Atheists Hate Him, One Simple Trick to Prove God Exists.
And there's a really simple proof.
There's a lot of them. None of them survive basic scrutiny, so I guess they're not really proofs, but theists think they are. So which one are we picking off the menu today?
And the Bible talks about this. The Bible gives us the proof.
Yeah?
And it is
Yeah?
existence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. That's just what I wanted to hear.
If there is such a thing as existence, if anything exists, then God exists.
Oh, that's great. That's perfect. Keep it rolling, man.
And it goes like this. If we trace the origin of anything, any physical, natural thing.
What books do you got back there? Bunch of Michael Crichton, C++, C, Visual C++, Calculus, Smarty Pants.
Me,
You're physical and natural? All of you? Does you include your soul?
or rock,
Bro, do you sleep on a bunk bed? That's fucking awesome!
or any biological thing.
By the way, at the start of making this, I spent like half an hour trying to figure out where I've seen you before. I thought maybe you looked like some TV or movie actor, but I just couldn't figure it out. Somebody help me out, will ya?
Anything physical that I can touch, I can trace the existence back further and further and further. Eventually we get to the first physical thing. We can call it, I don't care, an atom, or Adam the person,
If Adam the person was the first physical thing, I think you would have had a real bad day.
whatever. Maybe if you still want to believe in evolution, you say that the first physical thing is whatever was there at the Big Bang.
I don't see what that has to do with evolution. Why would accepting evolution mean you believe there was some first physical thing at all? These are completely unrelated topics. And for that matter, why would accepting the Big Bang mean that you accept that there was some first physical thing either? It's entirely possible to believe in both evolution and the Big Bang and believe that, for example, there's infinite energy, infinite universes, infinite Big Bangs, and so on, that being infinite will never cease to be able to do things. Now, I'm not saying I believe that. I don't, because I don't have any particular belief on anything beyond our universe, including beyond its beginning. That's an awful big thing to convince me about, and it's awful hard to demonstrate conclusively. But for the exact same reason, I also don't believe your "there was a first thing" thing. Besides which, it sounds very much like a product of the human mind's tendency to simplify things to suit the world as we experience it, which frankly doesn't even come close to the full weirdness of reality. Sure, it may seem intuitively satisfying, but so do a lot of false things. So, point being, premise rejected until you prove it.
Well, in order for that first thing to exist, it either created itself, it came from nothing, or something caused its existence.
Or it always existed, or there was no first thing at all, or nothing itself isn't even possible, or causation doesn't apply without space-time, or. We can make up possibilities all day, so it's probably best that we don't leap to any conclusions just because they sound right based on our everyday experience.
Now, we can discount the first two unless you're just crazy.
Or we can do that, okay. Actually, you do it, and I'll spectate.
Nothing comes from nothing.
Is nothing even a thing?
So we'll toss that out. Nothing can create itself. So we can toss that out.
Are you sure? I mean, for example, if time is just one more dimension of space-time, then can there be something like a loop within it where an object affects other objects at a distance? Or more specifically, an object affects events at an earlier part of the timeline, thus causing its own existence? It's not necessarily a paradox. If the all omnis God believers, presumably including yourself, have it right, and God in fact exists beyond space-time and can observe all events at all points in time at once, then the flow of time isn't actually real, it's an illusion. The universe is just a preset structure where all events exist simultaneously, in which case, what's to stop one event, say the conversion of a particle into energy, being tied to some other event, say the conversion of energy into that same particle millions of years previously? There's no obvious reason why it couldn't. In this scenario, it's no longer a matter of the cause having to precede the event, it's a matter of the structure of the overall universe. So now let's say we subtract God from that scenario and it remains exactly the same, a preset structure of objects within, let's say, 4 spacetime dimensions. In that case, causation could in theory occur any which way, and we just don't notice it in our everyday experience. And the only reason you think it can't happen is because it sounds unintuitive to you based on your experience, despite the fact that the omniscience of your God implies at least the possibility. Besides which, if it's possible that something like God exists in some sense beyond space-time, then who can even say what the possibilities are? Causation is a temporal phenomenon. Does it have any meaning at all outside of time? For that matter, does possibility even have meaning outside of space-time? I don't know. Now, I have no idea if any of this is anything like how reality is. I don't have any of these answers. But I also have absolutely no reason to accept your assertions because you don't have the answers either, even if you're supremely confident that you do.
The only other alternative is that something that is not physical created that first physical thing.
How does something not physical create a physical thing? For that matter, can physical things even be created at all? What is your evidence for any of this? If we're arguing from our everyday experience, my experience is that non-physical things don't even exist, let alone create physical things, and physical things are never created or destroyed, just changed. And apparently, based on what you said before, everyday experience is some kind of hard and fast rule for all of reality just because you say so. So I win. Fuck you.
That thing that's not physical has to be, by definition, supernatural. Or not natural.
The non-physical physical thing creating thing you made up that there's no evidence does or can exist is supernatural. Alright. I don't see the point in assigning labels to something that's about 10 levels of hypothetical, but sure, call it that if you want. I'd call it boogie-woogie made-up fucking magic, but you can call it whatever you like.
It also has to be eternal, because it had to not have a beginning.
If it's possible for something to not have a beginning, then why not just say all of physical something didn't have a beginning and be done with it? Personally, I wouldn't say that because I have no evidence for it, but I have exactly the same amount of evidence for that you do for your thing, so what makes your thing so special?
We know things begin.
Do we? As in physical reality begins? Energy begins? Do we know this? How? This has not been observed. The Big Bang Theory doesn't propose such a violation of energy conservation. So this is a massive revelation. How have you reached this incredible conclusion, sir?
These things are physical and natural. Only things that, they all have a beginning.
Which things can you prove have a beginning? You say that physical and natural things all have a beginning. That's a pretty big claim to prove. So let's start with your evidence that any physical or natural thing has a genuine beginning, as opposed to just being the product of change, subject to conservation of energy. You're trying to get a free lunch here by just asserting that your lunch is free. It doesn't work that way, my dude. Now, the premise of your entire argument relies on this being true. That means before your argument is even worth starting, you have to prove this thing is true, and you haven't.
The only thing that could possibly create anything else that is physical is something that is outside of the physical.
Again, how the fuck can something outside the physical create something physical? Specifically how? Explain. Prove that it's even possible, then explain how it's possible, then prove it actually happened. You need to either do this before this argument, or you need to start your video off by referring to some other evidence that establishes it, which, to save you some time, I'll inform you right now, doesn't exist.
So if we say okay, this thing has to be eternal.
If it's non-physical, then it's not subject to physical rules, which supposedly includes causation, right? So who's to say it didn't pop into existence, instantly create the universe, and pop right out of existence again? Why would it need to have neither a beginning nor an end? And for that matter, can you specify what it means for a non-physical thing to exist? I mean, non-physical thing sounds awful close to a contradiction in terms to me. It sounds awful close to being a fancy way of saying nothing.
This thing has to have the power to create out of nothing.
Okay, so provide your evidence that anything can create anything out of nothing. I think that's going to be a toughie.
Because nothing else existed. This thing has power, this thing has an eternal nature. What else could it be but God?
A powerful, eternal, non-physical thing with no mind or intentions that doesn't write books. For a start.
So that's the main idea.
Cool. It's dumb.
God exists because everything exists.
Serious question, dude. Do you think you'd actually find this argument compelling if you didn't already believe in God? Or are you really just trying to find some way to post hoc justify your beliefs?
How far ever you want to go back, you can say, okay, we came from aliens. Well, where did they come from?
Oh, they randomly popped into existence in 1972 and then immediately popped us into existence. Because you see, before then, only the non-physical existed, and as we all know, the non-physical can create the physical, which it did, for no reason at all, in 1972.
You can say, we evolved. Well, where did the first amino acids or hydrogen or the first elements, where did they come from?
I already answered that question, and it's true because I said so.
Where did the Big Bang come from?
Walmart.
It had to come from something. And that something had to be outside of the realm of the physical and the natural.
Right, the non-physical Walmart.
Anyway, that's...
Killer outro. Alright, patrons, that's